Get this one word wrong and it can ruin your chances of getting a teaching job. Hi, my name is Marjan Glavac from the Busy Educator website. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video. In this video, I'm going to tell you that one word that can ruin your chances of getting a teaching job. It's just one of the secrets that I discovered and used in my 29-year teaching and mentoring career to get me dream teaching jobs in schools that wanted me. And a lot of those years were spent just learning about some of the small details you don't think are important to an employer, but are crucial if you want a teaching job. Let me share a story with you about one of those small details and how it could be a deal breaker. Van Halen is an American rock band. They are one of the world's best-selling bands of all time, having sold more than 80 million records. Van Halen had a standard performance contract with a special rider. The rider stated that a bowl of M&Ms with all the brown M&Ms removed was to be placed in their dressing room. If there was even a single brown M&M in that bowl, Van Halen had legal cause to cancel their concert without advance notice. When I first heard about this, I couldn't help thinking about more prima donnas making these ridiculous demands because, well, they're prima donnas, but there was a reason behind this request. It was a test of whether the contract was being read and followed. As Van Halen lead singer David Lee Roth explained in his autobiography, Van Halen was the first band to take huge productions into tertiary third-level markets. They'd pull up with 9 18-wheeler trucks full of gear where the standard was 3 trucks maximum. And there were many technical errors, whether it was the girders couldn't support the weight, or the flooring would sink in, or the doors just weren't big enough to move the gear through. The contract rather read like a version of the Chinese Yellow Pages because there was so much equipment and so many human beings to make it all function. So just as a little test, in the technical aspect of the rider, it would say, Article 148, there will be 15 amperage voltage sockets at 20-foot spaces, evenly providing 19 amperes. This kind of thing. And Article number 126 in the middle of nowhere was, there will be no brown M&Ms in the backstage area upon pain of forfeiture of the show with full compensation. So, when David Lee Roth would walk backstage, if he saw a brown M&M in that bowl, well, he would line check the entire production. It was a guarantee that he would arrive at technical error. They didn't read the contract. Guaranteed you'd run into a problem. Sometimes it would threaten to just destroy the whole show. Something like literally life-threatening. The folks in Pueblo, Colorado at the university took the contract rather kind of casual. They had one of these new rubberized bouncy basketball floorings in their arena. They hadn't read the contract and weren't sure really about the weight of this production. This thing weighed like the business end of a 747. David Lee Roth came backstage. He found some brown M&Ms. The staging sank through their floor. They didn't bother to look at the weight requirements or anything, and this sank through their new flooring and did $80,000 worth of damage to the arena floor. The whole thing had to be replaced. So, what is the bowl of M&Ms when applying for a teaching job? It's the employer's name. I used this same technique when I was an employer and a member of a number of hiring committees as a screening method, just like Van Halen did. Let me tell you how I did that. Before I had any thoughts of becoming a teacher, I was taking courses in personnel management and industrial relations at the University of Toronto. The University of Toronto is the largest university in Canada. While I was there, I was a member of the Students' Administrative Council and held an executive position as the Education Commissioner. And it's here that I learned some of the secrets of getting a job. One of my first duties as an executive member was to sit on a number of hiring committees and hire people. We needed support staff to work as administrative assistants and project coordinators for all the work we were doing on behalf of students. We put a small classified ad into the local newspaper advertising the positions. Within days, we got hundreds of resumes, and I mean hundreds and hundreds of resumes that came in manila envelopes. And a lot of these candidates had master's degrees or PhDs or so much practical experience that they were overqualified. And all this for a minimum wage position. It was a very, very competitive job market, a lot like today for teachers. We quickly found out that there was no way that we had the time to read through everyone. We were busy, we had other things to do, and we were students. So we decided to screen them as best as we could. This is the greatest lesson I learned about applying for a teaching job. I learned that if you can't get this one word right, it will ruin your chances of even getting a minimum wage job. And if it can ruin your chances of getting a minimum wage job, then it'll probably ruin your chances of getting a teaching job. So the greatest lesson I learned about applying for a teaching job or any job is to make sure you get the correct spelling of the employer's name. And this starts with the name on the envelope or in the cover letter, email, or fax. Make sure you spell the name correctly. We tossed every manila envelope that misspelled our name in the garbage. And there were a lot of envelopes that didn't even get open because they didn't even take the time to carefully read the name in the classified ad. We reasoned that if they couldn't even do that right, then what else could they do? What's unfortunate about all this is that it could have easily been avoided. All they needed was to have someone proofread their application. You might be thinking that this was just an isolated incident from a student organization at a Canadian university. Stuff like that doesn't happen in the real world. It's just a small detail, right? Everyone makes mistakes. Well, that's what I thought until I heard the story about Van Halen. You know, making sure names are spelled correctly and little details are attended to may seem pretty trivial, but they are very important, even in teaching. If you misspell or mispronounce a student's name, it's pretty important to them. And with a name like Marjan, I know that from firsthand experience. A small detail that you might not think is important to an employer may be crucial if you want a teaching job. In the next two videos, I'll be telling you about some other little details that can make all the difference. Make sure to watch the next video. In the next video, I'm going to talk about the most critical mistake to avoid in a job interview. So you've learned what mistake to avoid in your job application. Next, you're going to learn what mistake to avoid in the job interview. And this one I learned the hard way by doing this critical mistake and not getting the job. In the meantime, scroll down the comment box. Let me know your experience looking for a teaching job. Were there any little details that hurt your chances for an interview or for a job? Is there any advice you can give based on your own job hunting experiences? Do you have any questions or other comments? After you post your comments, go ahead and hit that like button. We all want to be liked, especially me. Come on, hit the like button. You know you want to. I'm Marjan Glavac from the Busy Educator website. Talk to each other, support each other, take care of each other. The most critical mistake to avoid in a job interview. Hi everyone, Marjan Glavac here from the Busy Educator website with our second video. How was the first video? Did you start thinking about those little details, like making sure names are spelled correctly? I want you to start thinking about those small details that you might not think are important to an employer, but may be crucial if you want a teaching job. Did you let me know your experience looking for a teaching job? Were there any little details that hurt your chances for an interview or for a job? I'd love to read your comments. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 job interview tips to help you avoid the most critical mistake I made in my first interviews. I learned this critical mistake the hard way by doing the mistake a number of times and not getting the job. Before I became a teacher, I tried getting a full-time job after I graduated with a 4-year Bachelor of Arts degree in the late 1970s. I was really excited to be applying for my first full-time job. I was finally going to be in the workforce. I was no longer going to be a student. I was finally going to be making some money. I sat down on my typewriter. There were no word processors back then, and I started to type personalized cover letters and resumes to 100 employers. I figured that out of 100 employers, there had to be a job for me. I made sure I had the right paper, you know, that fancy 32-pound, 100% cotton, bright white paper. I made sure I had the right name in the employer's hiring committee. I made sure I had the right manila envelopes and the right postage. This was before fax machines and email. It took about a week to type up all the cover letters and resumes. The reason why it took me so long was that if you made a mistake back then, you really couldn't use whiteout to correct the mistake. You just start all over again. I was excited. I was pumped. I was ready for the replies. The days went by. Then the weeks went by. I checked my mailbox every few hours to see if anything came in. Finally, the replies started to come in. My heart would race a bit. I opened the letters and I read the rejections. That was fine. Rejection was part of the whole process. Out of the 100 jobs I applied for, I did get 8 interviews, which back then, like now, the economy wasn't doing so well and not many employers were hiring graduates with a Bachelor of Arts degree. But I still got 8 interviews. Out of the 8 interviews, I got exactly 0 job offers. That was pretty depressing. I really had my heart set on some of those jobs. Looking back, the most critical mistake I made in not getting a single job offer was that I didn't show up. That's not to say that I didn't show up for the interview. I was there physically, but I wasn't present in the moment. I wasn't prepared, I wasn't ready, I wasn't geared up. Thinking back to all those newbie mistakes I made, here are 5 job interview tips to help you avoid the most critical mistake I made in my first interviews. Number 1, get a good night's rest. Set your alarm or multiple alarms and get up early, have a good breakfast, and get mentally prepared for your interview. Always dress properly for an interview. Your first impression could be your last one. When in doubt, it is better to overdress than underdress. This was one of the biggest mistakes I made in my first interview. I got up late, downed a cup of coffee, and looked like something that a cat dragged in. Not a good first impression. It didn't start well. Went downhill quickly after that and didn't end well. Number 2, never be late for a job interview. Give yourself enough time to get there. You should get to your interview 10 to 15 minutes early. This would give you some time to relax and gather your thoughts before the interview actually starts. Another common mistake I made in my early interviews. I came late because I misjudged the traffic, or I couldn't find the right office tower, or I was so nervous I spilled coffee over my shirt and need the extra time to clean up. So factor in enough time to get there. While you're there, get to know the secretary. Here's an inside tip. Ask for permission if you can just walk the hallway and look at the displays. Take 10 minutes before your interview to do this. This little tidbit of information will really impress your interviewer when you talk about it. It not only shows that you've taken an interest in what teachers and students are doing at the school, but it also will show the interviewer your thoughts about the work. It also puts you head and shoulders above your competition. Number 3, do your research. Before the interview, try to find out as much as you can about the district, school, administration, and staff. How else do you expect to answer the question, why do you want to work for our school? Or why do you think you'd be a good fit with our district and our school? If you don't know anything about the district, school, administration, and staff, there's a good chance that you're not going to get hired. This is what sunk any chances I had for the non-teacher jobs I was applying for. The interview asked me, what do you see yourself doing for our company? I went blank. I mumbled something about I wanted to work for this company, but I couldn't come up with anything specifically that I wanted to do for the company. My mind went blank. The interview was soon over and I was shown the door. With the internet, it's very easy to go to districts and schools' website and read about who they are, their mission, vision, demographics, special programs, what they're most proud of and known for. Most often you can read about administration staff through their web pages, blogs, Twitter feeds, and other social media. The big takeaway here is that you want to show your prospective employer that you really want to work for them by taking the time to research them and getting to know the district, school, and staff. Number 4, show your passion for the job. Remember, passion is not something that can be taught. You either have it or you don't. Your employer wants to know that you have it. This was the biggest reason why I wasn't prepared. This is why I didn't show up. I really had no passion for the jobs I was applying for. Once I got my teaching degree and I found that I had a passion for teaching for kids, I was enthusiastic, and this passion came across my teacher job interviews. It certainly didn't come across in the other non-teacher jobs I applied for. Number 5, interviewers want to know that you're not just looking for any job, but that you're looking for the right job for you. Therefore, you should be prepared with a handful of questions that you'd like to ask of them. This will also make the interview seem more like a two-way conversation rather than a one-way interview. For my very first interview, I had 0 questions. I really didn't know what I wanted. I just wanted a job. Not good. When I applied for my teaching job, I knew exactly the subject and grade I wanted to teach. I also knew about the specific curriculum, the strands and resources I would be teaching. I knew what I was going to be teaching, and I could articulate what I knew to the hiring committee. And since I was prepared, I could ask the hiring committee about specific challenges that I knew would come up at the grade level and the subject I was teaching. It then became a two-way conversation and a discussion. It was also an opportunity to recap to them what may be different and better than all the other candidates, what I could offer the school and why I should be hired. I spoke about my strengths, the committees and extracurricular activities that I want to be a part of, and some of my other strengths that would be an asset to the school. Job interviews can be extremely stressful, especially when there's a job you really want. However, if you follow these job interview tips and watch my next video, you'll be better prepared to ace your next job interview. Now, I want to talk about the next video I have for you. You're going to love this last video. It's absolutely the best video of all of them. I give away the secret to how to answer the most important teacher interview question. As well, you'll also be able to download a special report on 110 teacher interview questions, which practically covers every question you're going to be asked in a teacher interview. In the meantime, scroll down the comment box. Let me know what your dream teaching job is that you're looking for. Write down what grade or subject do you think you'll be teaching 5 or 10 years from now. List any interview questions that I should have included. And again, post any questions or other comments for me. After you've posted, go ahead and hit that like button. I'm Marjan Glavac from the Busy Educator website. Talk to each other, support each other, and take care of each other. Hi everyone, Marjan Glavac here from the Busy Educator website with our 3rd video. It's been very exciting meeting you, feeling your enthusiasm, and reading your comments and questions. Thank you very much. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to answer the most important teacher interview question. You'll also be able to download a special report on 110 teacher interview questions, which practically covers every question you're going to be asked in a teacher interview. I also have a free resource sheet explaining 2 strategies in detail to answer the most important teacher interview question. I'll explain more about this resource later in this video. In addition, I'm going to give you a special invitation for more training. In my 29 years of teaching, every year I taught, I always learned a lot from my students. In this case, I've learned a lot from all of you. And that's what lifelong learning is all about. I thank you for making this video series a success. How to answer the most important teacher interview question. From all my research and 29 years of teaching experience, I can honestly say that I'm still surprised at how many teachers still get these interview questions wrong. Quote, what can you tell me about your classroom management plan? How do you handle classroom management issues? Share a time on how you handled a difficult student. The truth is, how you answer the classroom management question can be the difference between getting that perfect teaching job or not getting a teaching job at all. Without a doubt, at some point in your teacher interview, you will always be asked some type of classroom management question. However, like I said, this is where many potential teachers fail the interview. Here are some tips. First of all, make sure you clearly express that classroom management is not just about rewards and punishment. It's about keeping your students actively involved in all of your lessons. And that you are a proactive teacher as opposed to a reactive teacher. Make sure to explain to your potential employer that the best classroom management plan is a strong instructional plan. In other words, you do not rely on the elaborate systems of rewards and punishments to address classroom management issues, but instead you find it much more effective to be proactive. Next, at this point in your answer, it's very effective to explain the major reasons why classroom management issues occur and how you plan on addressing those classroom management issues. Just to give you an idea, I might say something like this. Classroom management issues arise from two main reasons. One, boredom, and two, confusion. Addressing both of these issues starts from the second the students enter the classroom. By keeping students actively involved throughout the lesson, the students will not get bored. Of course, you need to explain how you're going to do this. You must show your interviewers that you're not all theory, but you actually apply what you say to the classroom. Your answer must be as specific as possible with actual examples from actual lessons. You have to show the interviewers what it looks like if they were visiting your class. For example, I would explain how I use teaching strategies such as the all right and the parent share to increase class participation from 10% to 100%. I've explained these two strategies in detail for you in a free resource sheet so that you can explain them to your interviewer if they ask, and also for you to use in your own classroom. It's available for you to download from this webpage underneath this video. And I would also walk my potential employer through an actual lesson that exemplified how to pull off a cooperative learning activity such as a cooperative jigsaw without any classroom management problems. All of these activities keep students actively involved. It reduces boredom. It limits the opportunity for classroom management issues to rise in the first place. However, that only addresses the boredom issue. The other major reason classroom management issues arise has to do with student confusion. Make sure to explain how important it is for teachers to anticipate and clear up any possible confusion about what the students are to do. Let your interviewer know that you plan to clearly post your daily agenda and objectives to limit student confusion, and that you will certainly discuss both at the beginning of every lesson. Remember, these things should not be a surprise to your students. Also, explain how you check for understanding throughout the lesson by simply having students repeat back your directions. By letting your interviewers know that you understand why classroom management issues arise and how to address these issues before problems arise, you'll definitely ace the most important question in the teacher interview. I invite you to click below to get a special report on 110 teacher interview questions, which practically covers every question you're going to be asked in a teacher interview. I know you've already learned a lot watching these videos. Do you want to learn some more? If you're really serious about getting a teaching job and want an unfair advantage over the competition, I'm launching a special course to help dedicated students like you to get a teaching job. Remember, those 100 resumes I sent out, 8 interviews and no jobs, I'll show you how I got a job. My dream job, when teacher jobs were practically non-existent in my district and neighboring districts. When interest rates hit 21%, the inflation rate averaged more than 12%, unemployment peaked at 13%. If you truly want to be a teacher, you need to follow someone like me, who's been there in the trenches and experienced tough economic times and was still able to get a dream job and another dream job after that. I've got all kinds of content, special reports, and case studies to help you get your teaching job. There's a link at the bottom of this page that will take you to a site that will give you all the information. The offer is time limited. I'm taking the site down after 7 days. So, take a look at the information, read it carefully. If you have any questions, put them in the comment box or email me, and give me a like. I'd really appreciate that. See you in the course. I'm Marjan Glavac from the Busy Educator website. Talk to each other, support each other, and take care of each other.